Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today on getting started with belonging and diversity analytics. Today, we're excited to share with you more about Workday's insight offerings so that you can consider the unique needs of your business when it comes to moving your B&D strategy and identify the right combination of Workday capabilities to help you build a system of accountable analytics to help you drive meaningful change. As we get started, we'd like to remind you that we'll be speaking about Workday's roadmap today. So it's important that you make any purchasing decisions on Workday's current functionality. My name is Sarah Burt. I am your host today. I have been with Workday for the past 8 years and am a Workday HCM solution consultant, focusing much of my work around the belonging and diversity solution. I am joined by our esteemed panel of Leanne Irwin and Tricia Lord. Leanne is my colleague and fellow HCM solution consultant. She also works very closely with Workday's Belonging and Diversity solution, and she's a part of our customer base team. Today, you're going to see Leanne provide a demonstration of Workday's Belonging and Diversity solution. And then we also have with us Tricia Lord, our senior product manager for our People Analytics application. All right, so just a bit of housekeeping as we get started. Today, we're going to walk through our different offerings. We're going to see a brief demonstration of our belonging and diversity solution from Leanne, and then we'll have about 10 minutes of live Q&A with our panel at the end of the session. So we encourage you to send in any questions you may have along the way. You should see that you have a Q&A area where you can submit your questions and you can use the chat to connect with one another. If we don't get to your question, don't worry though. We will reach out to you directly after the session and we'll make sure to provide you an answer if we don't have time to get to all of the questions today. All right, so we are all here today because we care deeply about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we want to make sure that we are continuing to move forward and impact change so that we can create great places to work for all. Our Chief Diversity Officer, Karen Taylor, joined Workday more than 3 years ago, and with her, she brought a philosophy called VIBE, which stands for Valuing, Inclusion, Belonging, and Equity for All. And B&D has become a non-negotiable for organizations. With the rise of the social justice movement, employees have begun to ask a lot more of their organizations. So what are we doing? What are our goals? And how are we driving that DEI strategy? And to have a focused strategy, you need relevant data and insights. And we know that while representation really matters, a focus on diversity without inclusion, belonging, and equity can never allow real progress to happen. We also have to consider that while companies have had diversity goals, even public ones, for a long time, that our outcomes aren't matching our intentions. And we need to move from goal setting to goal getting, which is all about setting up a system of accountable analytics to allow you to really get up each and every day so that you can get to your goals. Now, Workday has a lot of offerings to help you when it comes to belonging and diversity. And so today we want to help you to understand what those are, what they do, so that you can decide what fits your organization's needs and strategies best. First, we'll start out by talking about from a foundational level, how we help you to capture the demographic data you need with self-ID in Workday. And you can utilize core HCM reporting for self-guided discovery with both delivered and custom reports along with our discovery boards. So for example, this would include things like our Vibe Central Diversity and Inclusion Dashboard and our delivered pay equity discovery board. Next, we have Workday People Analytics, which is our augmented analytics application that digs through your data to surface where you have the biggest risks and opportunities within your business, allowing you to spend less time on data analysis and more time on implementing the strategies that will help impact change. People Analytics has its own dedicated diversity and inclusion tab along with D&I drivers throughout the application. It's also where our Vibe Index lives, which you'll see more of in Leanne's demonstration. Next, we have Peakon. With our powerful employee listening technology, we allow you to capture the voice of the employee within the moment pulse surveys. And then we have Prism Analytics, our platform that serves as a data hub for secure integration and transformation of non-Workday data with Workday data, providing workforce, financial, and operational insights. But it's often easier to see it rather than talk about it. So let's go ahead and jump into the product with a demonstration from Leanne of these different belonging and diversity offerings.
I'm super excited to be here to talk about belonging and diversity insights with Workday. But when you think about insights, it all starts with data. And Workday can help you collect the data on your employees in a variety of ways through localization. If we take a look at 3 employees, first being Sheila, we're able to see the collection of specific personal data around individuals in China, from race and ethnicity to gender, even personal information from where she lives and works. This is an example of localization. However, if we look at an individual, Bettina from Germany, what we will see is that there is no race or ethnicity information collected on her, because you're unable to collect that type of data for individuals in Germany. However, we can use data around gender or location and other data attributes to understand the diversity in those particular areas of the world. A third individual, Jake Lee, who is from the US, we can see a different set of data elements collected on him, from race and ethnicity to gender, potentially veteran status. All of these data elements can be collected on the individuals based on where they live and work, allowing Workday to help you remain compliant in collecting the data that you need for insights. Now, where do we find these insights? These insights can be found in a variety of places in tools that Workday can provide to you. The first tool I wanted to show you is our Vibe Central dashboard. This dashboard is a Workday delivered dashboard, free to all of our HCM customers. This dashboard can tell you information around diversity and inclusion from hire to retire, using those transactions in Workday to help promote visualization of parity across the organization. In a summary page, we are seeing information around, from a US perspective, your underrepresented minority percentages. You can also set targets for those percentages, allowing you to not only set goals, but get goals. Using Workday's Data as a Service benchmarking tool, you're able to analyze how you're doing from a diversity perspective to peer Workday customers, seeing how you can improve in terms of your diversity initiatives. It all starts with recruiting and hiring of diverse candidates into your population. With Workday Recruiting and Vibe Central, you're able to find out information about where the top sources are of underrepresented minority candidates and how those candidates are funneling through the pipeline to make sure there's no bottlenecks or issues in their progress to being hired, and comparing them to underrepresented minorities. When we think about the data and we think about diversity, think about parity amongst your employees around promotions, parity in leadership, and parity among individuals leaving the organization. Those are the type of metrics the Vibe Central Workday Delivered Dashboard provides to you. As we move up in data analytics, the next tool I want to show you is called People Analytics. People Analytics is an augmented analytics tool. And what that tool does for you is supply you automatically metrics that you might not be aware of. It does this by scouring millions of data points on your behalf within your Workday solution and surfacing relevant deviations from a trend or anomalies. For example, if we look at the diversity and inclusion focus area, we're able to see key trends. These data elements are supplied to the user automatically. I didn't need to scour the data myself. I didn't need to show this to my users. The tool does it automatically, thus giving you a quicker return on your investment. It will provide you key trends, analytics to support those trends, areas for improvement, gaps, as well as the data itself. If we look at this metric right here that was automatically supplied to me through People Analytics, we're able to see why it's being presented to me, a story written in natural language, as well as the area I need to focus in on. Well, as you know, with Workday, where there's blue, there is a clue. I can dig in and find out more. As we can see, the gray line is showing me the trend, and the orange line is showing me the actual. And that is the reason it's being supplied to me, a deviation from the trend as shown here. Well, what does this truly mean to me? Workday supplies you a story. I didn't need to write this in. Workday automatically provided me the information that 7 women were hired and 11 women left. And that might be an issue for me to investigate further. All of this taking place in information technology. Well, what are some attributes on those workers within information technology? With Workday, we're able to see key drivers, profile, all of the attributes you work really hard to collect on your employees within Workday, from performance data to compensation data. These help you to analyze who might be leaving and improve the business outcomes of your organization. With Workday, as you know, you can dig in and find out more. Through the detailed data tab, you're able to see the underlying data and who is represented in this group. You're able to use a tool called Discovery Boards, a Workday reporting tool available to all of our customers, Discovery Boards, to do further analysis on the data. For those that might have access to People Analytics, you're able to export the data to Workday Slides. Workday Slides is a tool similar to Google Slides. All of the richness of data within your Workday solution can be used to supply you key focal areas for improvement around diversity and inclusion. Also included with People Analytics is a tool called Vibe Index. Vibe Index allows you to measure parity across your organization throughout individual's career horizon. With Vibe Index, we provide you a score of how you're doing in terms of parity, whether you're committing to a strategy and just starting to evaluate parity. You have put best practices into place and initiatives and measuring against those initiatives, or thriving and keeping pace with parity in your organization. Well, how do we measure that? We measure that through the parity index. With the parity index, we're able to measure different intersectionalities of an individual. For US companies, many of our current customers measure ethnicity and gender. For their global customers, they measure gender and location. So you can decide the different intersections that you want to measure parity on. So for example, we have the intersection of female Asian. From here, we can see we have 11.6 female Asians within our organization. We have hired 13.2% female Asians within the last 12 months. We have promoted 12.4 female Asians within the last 12 months. We have 5.5 in leadership roles, and we have lost 15.6. The Vibe Index clearly shows me where I need to focus in creating parity among female Asians within the organization, supporting my female Asians into leadership roles, and understanding why my female Asians might be leaving the organization. Well, how do you do that? With Workday's People Analytics tool, you can understand what is going on. But now you need to understand why. The why comes from engagement or sentiment surveys. With Workday, we have a tool called Pecan that allows you to measure the sentiment of your employees through pulse surveys. These pulse surveys can be provided weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually. The more frequently you provide these pulse surveys, the better data you'll see and changes over time. In this case, we want to understand the sentiment of our female Asian population. We can hone in using the analytics provided by Pecan to understand the engagement score of my female Asian population and how that compares to a Pecan delivered benchmark. Not only can we see and compare to a benchmark, we're able to see priorities that I should be focused on in order to increase the engagement scores of my female Asian population. As we can see here, many of our female Asians feel like they are not able to see a career path provided by the lower score. We can set this as a priority for our organization or see ways in which we can improve. Pecan delivers micro courses from Workday Learning, and an action plan to help me improve, and suggested ways that I can increase the engagement of this particular population. We can also see additional analysis of the groups to see attrition risk. Lastly, we want to take all of this data and understand parity amongst pay. So using our first HCM delivered discovery board, you are able to analyze pay equity amongst your employees from an ethnicity standpoint as well. So if we take a look, one great example is measuring the compa ratio by gender, compa ratio by ethnicity, and performance factors. In addition, discovery boards allow you to analyze the data in a drag and drop fashion, but also using Prism Analytics, you can bring in and ingest third-party data and align it to your Workday data. The value of that provides you the ability to pull in things that don't reside in Workday. Or maybe you have third-party payroll or sales incentive data outside of Workday. You can, using Prism Analytics, you can pull that data in and align it with your people data. One great example that Workday uses is bringing in stock vesting information from our third-party stock tool and aligning it with our people data to have and compare pay equity amongst all of our populations. So now we can see not only equity and parity amongst different career horizon projections, you can see pay equity amongst your employees. Today, we saw a lot of tools that helped you measure diversity and inclusion and how you're progressing with your initiatives to have a vibe outcome for all. Today, we looked at the ability to pull in localized data on that worker profile, to analyze it with Vibe Central, a Workday delivered dashboard. Then taking it to the next level and using the People Analytics tool to measure both diversity and inclusion and your Vibe Index. Vibe Index is parity amongst your organization throughout your employee's career horizon. That tells you the what. Using Pecan continuous listening surveys, you can understand the why. And then lastly, using discovery boards and Prism Analytics to pull in third-party data and align it with your people data, you're able to dig in deep and understand the full picture of parity across your organization. That is the power of what Workday provides in terms of analytics.
Thank you. All right. Well, as you saw, Workday has a lot of offerings to help you when it comes to belonging and diversity. First, with our worker profile localization, Workday helps you to capture various dimensions of employee identity specific to someone's location and global data requirements. Next, we have Vibe Central, our diversity and inclusion dashboard. This is free to Workday HCM customers, and it provides HCM core analytics with indicators across hiring, promotions, leadership, and attrition, helping you to impact your DEI outcomes. Next, we have our Vibe Index. The Vibe Index is included within People Analytics, as you saw, and can be used to measure gaps in parity and equity across many dimensions of employee identity throughout the employee talent lifecycle. Next, we have Peakon, our continuous listening platform. With Peakon, your business can gain even deeper insight into the understanding your people and creating action plans to improve engagement and bottom line results. Peakon can capture feedback across your organization and build real-time dashboards and personalized prescriptive recommendations. Then put those insights into action to establish a culture of belonging and equity for all. And then finally, Workday Prism. Prism Data Hub connects and blends external transactional and high volume data with Workday data. It's easy to bring data into Workday from any source, transform that data in a flash, keep your security model intact, and publish that data for reporting and analytics. As an example, Prism Data Hub can enhance Workday reporting with external engagement data, external market data, or operational data from any third-party source. So we hope that the session today has helped you to learn more about our belonging and diversity insight offerings, what they are, to consider the unique needs of your organization, your business, and ultimately to identify the right combination of Workday capabilities to help you drive meaningful change on your DEI journey. Now, I wanted to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. I think that we have some questions that have been coming in, so let's take a quick look at that. All right, so the first question I see, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my panel again. Leanne and Trisha are going to be back to help answer questions during the Q&A here. The first question I have is, do I need to have Prism Analytics and People Analytics to run the Vibe Index? Now, I'm going to go ahead and take that one. The answer is no, you do not need Prism Analytics for the Vibe Index. You only need to have People Analytics. So the next question I see is, where can I visualize Peakon data in Workday? And I'm going to pose that to Trisha on our panel here. So Trisha, could you take that question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, today you can bring in Peakon data in via Prism, and you can visualize it in a discovery board. And then longer term, you're going to be able to access the Peakon data directly in People Analytics. We will be adding in a belonging metric into the Vibe Index, as well as an engagement topic area as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trisha. All right, I see another question coming in. I'm going to give this one to Leanne. There's a question around the cost of Vibe Central. Leanne, can you talk a little bit more about that?
I sure can. So Vibe Central is free of charge. You know, lucky for everybody, it's a Workday delivered dashboard. There is a Vibe Central uptake guide on the Workday community with instructions to enable Vibe Central in your HCM environment. And I will post the link to that community article in the messages for you today.
Wonderful. All right, so definitely check out some of the resources in the chat if you're interested in getting that Vibe Central dashboard if you don't already have that enabled in your Workday environment. I see another question here around, can the Vibe Index pull in data from third-party systems? Trisha, can you answer that one for us?
Yeah, sure. In the future, we're going to allow third-party data, it's specifically engagement vendor data. So the Vibe Index will have that belonging metric that I mentioned, not only coming from Peakon, but if you don't have Peakon and a third-party engagement vendor. And then after that, we'll look into allowing allowing third-party recruiting vendors to populate populate the hires metric that's in Vibe Index.
Wonderful. So some things coming in terms of that third-party data in the Vibe Index. And then another question in the Q&A is, will we be able to change the intersections in the vibe index? So I think in Leanne's example, she showed gender and US race ethnicity. Can we change those to other diversity dimensions within the vibe index? Trisha, I'm going to go ahead and give that one back to you.
Yeah, sure. Yes, you can choose any two diversity dimensions. Examples outside of gender ethnicity would be nationality, disability status, veteran status, etc. So it's not just limited to gender and ethnicity like it was in the example.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. All right, another question that came in is, I'm going to ask Leanne if you would answer this one. How much history do you need in Workday for the Vibe Index in people analytics? So always a good consideration here.
That's a great question. So really, outcomes can be calculated on a rolling N month average, where N is the number of months of a worker history with a minimum of 5 months. But once the organization hits 12 months, then you need to, all outcomes metrics will be based on a rolling 12-month average. So a minimum of 5 months, but then when you get to 12, it's going to roll at 12. Great question.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thanks, Leanne. Another question came in around just the belonging outcomes. So when are we going to be adding belonging outcomes to the Vibe Index that's in people analytics? So Trisha, this is your area of expertise. Could you take that one?
Yeah, we're aiming for 2022 R2 for that belonging metric into the Vibe Index that would be coming from Peakon, and then 2023 for that third-party engagement vendor to be included within that belonging metric.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trisha. And then I see another question in here. This is around our pay equity that Leanne showed in the demonstration. So Leanne, you could probably take this question for us, but can you tell us more about what Workday is doing to address pay equity metrics?
Sure. Well, Workday enables you to analyze your pay equity progress with our new, it's a Workday delivered pay equity discovery board. With your discovery board, we provide pre-configured visualizations that you can use to begin your analysis. In addition, Workday provides a full pay equity dashboard to support analysis as well.
Very nice. And Leanne, I think that we may have a link that we can share out with the group, because our delivered pay equity discovery board is relatively new. So we would love for you to find out more about how to get that enabled within your environments and begin using that delivered discovery board, because I know that that's a little of what you saw Leanne demonstrate in today's session. Well, I think that rounds out most of the questions that we have time for today. I just want to finish up and thank everyone for joining the session today. We will follow up for any questions that we weren't able to get to today, and just want to remind everyone that we have a great selection of on-demand content that's available to you that we hope you go and check out. And in the meantime, we hope you have a great workday. Thank you so much.